Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 26th of January. Cut off from Kent. The only road onto the Isle of Grain is to be closed over Valentine's weekend.
If they need anything extra and they can't get out, then that's going to be a problem for them.
7 summits. Canterbury's Harry Boodham McGar completes climb of 7 highest mountains across each continent.
It was tricky, but just kept going, one step at a time.
And staying alive. Former Dartford Mayor urges CPR training after saving his wife at the side of the motorway.
People started stopping, the ambulances came, they shut the motorway. You know, it was a major incident.
But first tonight, Hoo Peninsula locals have slammed communications over a planned level crossing closure that will see the Isle of Grain cut off from the mainland for 29 hours. Network Rail say the works are necessary and they're trying to mitigate the impact with Medway Council as best they can. But locals say not everyone has been informed about the works, as our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader has been finding out.
It's the only road on and off the Isle of Grain. And next month it's set to be closed for more than 24 hours, while Network Rail make crucial repairs. The only problem, many residents here don't know that they'll be cut off.
The main worry is being able to access getting in and out of the village. Yes, and also the lack of sort of real communication from Network Rail.
Network Rail has arranged some mitigation, such as an information drop-in session and a minibus to transport residents from the village to the crossing, where they can then pass on foot. But the written communications about this have been inconsistent across the community.
I think the letters have been put into the post, and the post doesn't arrive in the village very much. Some people don't get post for about 2 weeks as we go on. I was lucky, I got mine last Thursday. My next door neighbour got hers yesterday. I've got neighbours that still haven't had the letters, so don't even know there's an information day going on at the moment.
The crossing behind me is set to be closed on Valentine's Day. Heartbreaking for some, though Network Rail do say the repairs are necessary.
Not worried at all. I mean, it's past time that it was done. With the amount of trucks and lorries we have coming in, because it's a small village, people think there's no trucks here, but there's hundreds of them. And of course, weather, trucks, cars, it all takes its toll on that crossing, and it's time it was replaced.
Network Rail say they're working closely with Medway Council to reduce the impact on residents, stating they explored options such as the use of a relief road, but said this would not be safe or viable. But the signal for those living here is clear. If you're planning a romantic evening on the mainland, it's probably easier to have a night in. Ollie Leader in Grain.
Now, Tunbridge Wells might have had its water supply back for 10 days now, but businesses and residents remain resolute in holding South East Water to account. Tonight, the company was supposed to answer questions about outages that left 30,000 properties in Kent and Sussex without drinking water at its height at a council overview and scrutiny meeting. But on Friday, company CEO David Hinton said he wouldn't be there. I'm joined now by our reporter Ellie Hodgson, who's been covering the story for the past 2 months. So, Ellie, what can you tell us about the current situation?
Well, Finn, as you can imagine, residents and businesses in Tunbridge Wells are far from happy about Mr Hinton's non-attendance tonight. The meeting was supposed to be an opportunity for the community to put their questions to the firm following the water outage that started on November 29th. In response, a recently formed campaign group, Dry Wells Action, held a meeting and has now written to the company chair, Chris Train, with a staggering 27 questions. I actually spoke to Jonathan Hawker, who founded the group, earlier when he had a lot to say about the cancellation.
I just saw it as a horrendous further snub to the people of Tunbridge Wells, that, not just Dave Hinton himself, but, nobody from South East Water the water company that has let down this community on a repeated basis can be bothered to turn up to face a few questions from local councillors.
So, Ellie, residents are understandably angry, but can you take us back to where this all started?
So the outages in the run-up to Christmas were prompted by issues with a batch of chemicals at Pembury Treatment Works. But since then, another major incident was declared in January, where further problems were prompted by the bad weather. So leaks and bursts in pipes, which led to problems in Maidstone, Canterbury, and of course Tunbridge Wells. So this time the supplier says the problems are to do with bursts, but we know there's a range of issues with the company.
I see, and we can see some images now of some of that impact of the meeting there as well. So aside from what we've heard about the plans to be talked to and in conversation with local residents in Tunbridge Wells, what other investigations are taking place into the firm?
Well, there's a number of investigations taking place, which include the Drinking Water Inspectorate, regulator Ofwat, and even the firm itself is carrying out its own investigation, which is ongoing. And of course, David Hinton and Customer Service Director Tanya Sefton gave evidence to the EFRA committee in January when he marked the firm 8 out of 10 for its response. However, he will be giving future evidence to MPs over this evidence that he gave, as they weren't impressed.
I see. And I suppose we've had all of this, we've had the investigations. We're having the investigations. What would you say is next?
Well, the residents I was speaking to today and the businesses, they still hope they have their opportunity to put these questions to David Hinton. And he has assured us that once the opportunity arises to have a face-to-face meeting, when he's got the facts, that he will be there to give the information that they rightly deserve.
I see. Well, thank you so much for bringing us news on what is not just a story of this past month, but what will be still a massive story for the remainder of the year. Thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you.
Next, a mum from Folkestone has said she was made to feel like a criminal after being detained by an Asda security guard. Sophie Powell visited the supermarket with her 7-year-old daughter Alana in Bouverie Place to buy milk and pasta sauce. But after selecting no to wanting a receipt, she was shocked to be stopped by a security guard who demanded proof of purchase and wouldn't let her leave the store. Bosses at the chain have since apologised to Miss Powell and say they only ask for proof of purchase with the best intentions. But the care worker has vowed to not shop there again. Next, there was chaos around the Dartford crossing over the weekend after a lorry struck the roof of the West Tunnel. The tunnel was forced to close from midday on Friday after an HGV over the permissible entry height damaged critical lighting, ventilation, CCTV and fire suppression equipment in the roof across the entire length of the 0.8-mile tunnel. For more than 30 hours, drivers faced severe delays as thousands of commuters were ushered into the East Tunnel at the crossing into Essex. The MP for Dartford, Jim Dixon, has demanded an apology for the disruptions not just to residents but also to businesses. Now, one of Canterbury's own has joined a bit of an exclusive club, one of only 500 people around the world to have climbed the tallest mountains in each continent. And one fact makes that all the more impressive, that he has no legs below the knee. Harry Buddha lost both his legs in an IED explosion whilst serving in Afghanistan. But he has managed to complete the 7 Summit Challenge this past week and has also returned to England, where I'm sure he'll be getting a much-deserved rest. He spoke with me about the trip and exactly which mountains he's been climbing. And spoiler warning, the cold, he says, was the absolute worst part. I spoke with him in his home in Canterbury about the climb. For most in Canterbury, the hill up to the university and the climb up the cathedral stairs tend to be the highest. But after climbing the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents, one local has made his triumphant return. Harry Buddha was a Gurkha soldier who lost both of his limbs to an IED in Afghanistan and now has completed the 7 Summits Challenge after his climb of Mount Vinson in Antarctica.
One of the most remote part of the world. There is no, humans live in Antarctica. So it is super cold and it's a long way as well. So you can't expose any of our skins outside. We need to cover everything up. So it was tricky, but just kept going, one step at a time. 1 camp a day, and we made it to the top.
Now, Harry, by this point, is no stranger to a tough mountain climb. But for this Antarctic one, the main obstacle wasn't just the summit, but the cold as well. So to prepare, he worked in collaboration with a company to create a new prosthetic leg. And the best part about it, it's electronically heated from the inside.
You know, I don't have to worry about my toes. Sadly, I can't able to afford more limbs. So we design the heating system that protects my stump. And also, we also design my summit suit accordingly, so that if, let's say, heating system fails, still we can able to put hand warmers on the small pockets around my stumps and still protects it. And like, I haven't lost any of them, so that's good news.
It wasn't just a battle against the elements, but the courts as well. They stood in Harry's way as he was banned from climbing any mountain over a certain height, but he managed to file a case and win the right to climb. He added that his story is a testament to dedication and passion, and that if he could climb the 7 mountains, Mount Vinson, Everest, Blank, Kilimanjaro, Denali, Aconcagua and Puncak Jaya, then so could anyone else. And now he's returned home to Canterbury, I think he's deserved a long rest. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Canterbury. Now it is time for a very short break, but don't go anywhere. We've got lots more to come, like the weather. We'll also have some more of our stories, including all of our latest sports news. Gillingham fans, you'll be very happy. We'll be going high in detail all about the 3-0 victory at Priestfield against Harrogate. And we've got some stuff for non-sports fans as well. See you after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, an inquest has opened into the death of a man stabbed to death in Sheppey. Timothy Hepworth was killed in the street near his home on January 17th, with his son later charged with his murder. This morning, the inquest into Hepworth's death opened at Oakwood House in Maidstone. His cause of death was decided to be due to the multiple stab wounds he was dealt in the attack. Our reporter Chloe Brewster is here in the studio now to tell us a little bit more about the case. Chloe, we covered this last week after the incident happened. Can you remind people watching just the basic details of the case?
Yeah, so 59-year-old Timothy Hepworth died in the street on Noreen Avenue, in Minster, just a few doors up from his home. This happened on Saturday, January 7th, around 6:30, with the victim confirmed dead at the scene at 10 to 8 that night. The victim's son, William Hepworth, who asked to be called Bill Rock in court, was charged soon after the attack with causing his death. The court heard at the preliminary hearing that Hepworth was stabbed around 26 times, so obviously brutal injuries there. William Hepworth is currently being detained at HMP Elmley on Sheppey. Tributes and flowers have been left at the doorstep of the victim's home.
I see. And what more do we know at this stage? Obviously, this is a developing trial, so tell us, what more do we know?
Well, today's hearing was actually an inquest, so it was just to find out how Timothy actually died. So the initial cause of death was from the stab wounds. That's what the court heard today. Assistant Coroner Giotti Gill said witnesses reported a man fleeing towards the shops covered in blood. The inquest was actually adjourned until further notice, obviously due to the ongoing murder investigation.
I see. And when will we get more details?
So William Hepworth's trial is set for July 6th, but his next appearance in court will be Tuesday, April 21st, to hear his plea and trial preparation hearing. It will only be then we sort of get more information about what's happened, but obviously a shocking case, and it's even more difficult to report just because of this family relation. Yes, and since it is an ongoing investigation, we can't comment on specific parts of the case. As you mentioned there, it's still an ongoing investigation. What can we expect to happen as this continues? Obviously, we won't know much more, but when can we expect to hear more details? Well, so obviously that plea on April 21st, that'll be paramount to see whether this does go to trial or not. It's not clear whether William will plead guilty or not guilty, but we'll just have to see on that one. I see. Thank you so much, Chloe. Now it's time to take a look at the weather. A chilly start tonight, temperatures staying around 6 and 7 degrees across the board, light showers in the south and the west. Into the morning, a yellow weather warning for heavy rain will be in place across the county. Temperatures expected to remain much the same, highs of around 7. By the afternoon, skies will stay largely cloudy, temperatures rising to around 9 degrees in places like Canterbury and Margate, highs of 10 degrees. Here is your outlook. Some brighter spells breaking through the cloud on Wednesday, highs of 9 degrees. Temperatures dropping slightly on Thursday, reaching highs of 8. Rain returning on Friday, temperatures remaining largely unchanged. Next, the new landlord of the Royal Oak pub in Blean is proposing to convert the old building into a new drive-through car wash. New landlord Mohammed Kadir emphasises the demand for a new local car wash, the current closest being 4 miles away in Canterbury. But public opinion is divided, with more than 70 submissions on the proposal, some locals noting the scheme could create severe strain on traffic where collisions have already occurred, with other concerned residents remarking on the already low water pressure they already have to deal with. Next, 18 years after Maidstone councillor granted developer Blueberry Homes permission to build houses on Sharp's Freeman site in Toval, residents are still waiting for the building to go ahead. Since permission was granted in 2007, the site has remained derelict and has become an eyesore for locals, who've described the building as a blot on the landscape. Since its acquisition, the site has changed hands several times and despite efforts to get in contact with the owners, no response has yet been received. Earlier this month, a storage container on the site was set on fire in what's currently being considered as an arson attack. A number of applications have also been proposed in the years following to build 13 houses, and several have been accepted, but each time the development still hasn't gone ahead.
Now we'll be taking a look at all the sports news from across the county, including your latest updates on the Gills after their strong win against Harrogate Town, as well as Canterbury Rugby Club, who've continued their dominance in the National League 2 East, and all the latest news on the South African fast bowler who's agreed to join for the start of Kent's County Championship summer. Let's have a look at a roundup of all your sports news. First up, it's good news for Gillingham after they cruised to a 3-0 win over Harrogate on Sunday, with all eyes on striker Josh Andrews. After missing 2 chances against Newport the previous week, Andrews kept his place in Ainsworth's side and had a far better time of it this week, assisting the opener at Priestfield and winning a penalty. Sam Vokes scored the third to wrap up the 3 points, with Gills manager Ainsworth praising Andrews' impact, saying he's massive, not just in stature, but in what he gives us. A platform at the top there, and then Sam Vokes comes on and does what he does. He said, what a character to learn off of. We can hear more from the manager now.
Yeah, fully deserved. Yeah, I really did think that we were well worth the victory today. Both players, fans, my staff, everyone has really worked hard for this today, and I can't thank the boys enough. You know, they were emphatic the way they went forward and finished. You know, in recent weeks we've been guilty of not, you know, spurning a few chances, but that was brilliant. You know, I don't want to pick anyone out today because that is just a team performance throughout, and. Yeah, we came up long journey yesterday. We knew what was coming, but Harrogate changed, I think, 4 or 5 players for their starting lineup because they've been in a bad run. So they sprung a little bit of a formation change on us. Boys dealt with it, really did, you know, and I've got some characters back in that team now.
Next to rugby, where Canterbury are beginning to become the dark horses of the National League 2 East after thrashing Dorking 40-7. They took total control in the first half, scoring 4 converted tries, running up 28 unanswered points and a bonus for Dorking's heaviest loss this turn. Canterbury were dominant. They never let the visitors enter the home 22 area until late in the first half. Then, at the start of the second, Canterbury hit them with a 5th try before seeing them to full time. Returning now to football, great news for Maidstone defender David Sissay, as he has a successful red card appeal after a draw at Torquay. Sissay was dismissed for violent conduct during the first half of the Stones' 1-1 draw at Torquay last weekend. Footage later showed the Gulls keeper James Hammond grab Sissay's hand and forced it into his face before diving to the ground. United's appeal was upheld, leaving the right back free to face Hemel Hempstead at the Gallagher on Saturday. Moving on to cricket now, as Kent sign on a new South African fast bowler in Glenton Sturman for the start of the County Championship Division 2 season. Sturman is likely to play from early April at Durham to mid-May at Beckenham. The 33-year-old has taken 21 wickets this season in 5 appearances, including against the Titans in the Cricket South Africa 4-day winter series. Overall, Sturman has 227 first-class wickets in 82 appearances and averages a 24.05. He's also played Test and T20 in South Africa and will be replaced by a 3rd South African in Sunuran Muthusamy, who compete in the latter half of this summer. That's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, apologies. That's all we have time for your sports news. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest headlines by logging on to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our stories, including this one about a house in Whitstable that was transformed from a residential care home into the BBC's Traitor's House. Let's have a look.
From the outside, it looks like a normal house in Whitstable. But step inside and it's a different story.
Welcome to the House of Deceit.
Inspired by the hit BBC show The Traitors, the house, which was once a care home, has been transformed to match the style of the mansion in Scotland. But where did it all start?
Last year my mum became unwell and I went to stay with her and we got really stuck into watching Celebrity Traitors together. We really enjoyed it and bonded over it and made sure that we religiously watched it, and it became a real appointment to view. I thought that it was quite a positive bonding experience, and immediately the idea went in my head, oh, we could host fun evenings at our house where people can come, stay in a big spooky house and play a game of deceit and strategy together.
But it's more than just a decorated house, as James has lots of ideas and experience in how to make the game immersive for those taking part.
Additionally, my background is in TV production, and I've worked on a lot of reality TV shows. Some are pretty tawdry and low rent, but the most famous of them is Big Brother. And I used to make games for Big Brother, and part of my job was to effectively wind people up, create tension and exacerbate already existing undercurrents in people's relationship. And so when I've designed the House of Deceit, I've drawn on that experience. So it's going to elevate it from a silly, fun weekend into quite a tense and difficult strategy game.
One local fan even applied to be on the show.
I done my auditions in October 2024 and I got through to the first round. I remember it, you know, because I'm one of these characters that I'm quite good at telling a story, and I could sell ice to Eskimos. So I thought, as a traitor, I'd be really, really good.
If you love watching Traders and you think you're up for the challenge yourself, you might not have to travel all the way to Scotland, and you can play your own game with your own friends here in Kent. So whether you're a trader or a faithful, it might be time to conspire a plan for the House of Deceit. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Whitstable.
Well, it's now time for another break, but don't go anywhere as we have many great stories coming up, including a former mayor who managed to save the life of his wife and are calling for more education on CPR. See you in a few minutes. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 26th of January. Cut off from Kent. The only road onto the Isle of Grain is to be closed over Valentine's weekend.
If they need anything extra and they can't get out, then that's going to be a problem for them.
7 summits. Canterbury's Harry Boodham McGar completes climb of 7 highest mountains across each continent.
It was tricky, but just kept going, one step at a time.
And staying alive. Former Dartford Mayor urges CPR training after saving his wife at the side of the motorway.
People started stopping, the ambulances came, they shut the motorway, you know, it was a major incident.
First tonight, Hoo Peninsula locals have slammed communications over a planned level crossing closure that'll see the Isle of Grain cut off from the mainland for 29 hours. Network Rail say the works are necessary and they're trying to mitigate the impact with Medway Council as best they can. But locals say not everyone has been informed about the works, as our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader found out when he visited the village.
It's the only road on and off the Isle of Grain. And next month it's set to be closed for more than 24 hours, while Network Rail make crucial repairs. The only problem, many residents here don't know that they'll be cut off.
The main worry is being able to access getting in and out of the village. Yes, and also the lack of sort of real communication from Network Rail.
Network Rail has arranged some mitigation, such as an information drop-in session and a minibus to transport residents from the village to the crossing, where they can then pass on foot. But the written communications about this have been inconsistent across the community.
I think the letters have been put into the post and the post doesn't arrive in the village very much. Some people don't get post for about 2 weeks as we go on. I was lucky, I got mine last Thursday. My next door neighbour got hers yesterday. I've got neighbours that still haven't had the letter, so don't even know there's an information day going on at the moment.
The crossing behind me is set to be closed on Valentine's Day. Heartbreaking for some, though Network Rail do say the repairs are necessary.
Not worried at all. I mean, it's past time that it was done. With the amount of trucks and lorries we have coming in, because it's a small village, people think there's no trucks here, but there's hundreds of them. And of course, weather, trucks, cars, it all takes its toll on that crossing, and it's time it was replaced.
Network Rail say they're working closely with Medway Council to reduce the impact on residents, stating they explored options such as the use of a relief road, but said this would not be safe or viable. But the signal for those living here is clear. If you're planning a romantic evening on the mainland, it's probably easier to have a night in. Ollie Leader in Grain.
Now, if someone's heart suddenly stopped, would you know what to do? Well, that's the question that the former mayor of Dartford and his wife are asking after he had to perform CPR at the side of a motorway in order to save her life. But after learning that fewer than 1 in 10 people survive a cardiac arrest and that immediate CPR can be the difference between life and death, the pair are now calling for more education on what to do in those crucial moments. Megan Shaw met them at their home to find out more.
You take things for granted and sort of you forget what happened in the past and just carry on having your medication and things.
Yeah, until that Monday.
Yeah.
What started as an ordinary drive home soon became a nightmare for Paul Cutler when he needed to resuscitate his wife at the side of a motorway. When Suzanne, who has battled breast cancer and previous heart failures, went into cardiac arrest in November, he quickly took action.
I pulled over onto the emergency lane, which wasn't very wide, so I had to make a very quick decision to just get off the motorway. Hazard warnings on within seconds, jumped out. Annabelle was on the phone doing 999. Went round to the passenger seat, unclipped her seatbelt. She was completely lifeless. I grabbed her by her shoulders, just dragged her out of the car, dragged her onto the grass, laid her flat, started performing CPR. obviously chaotic, lorries, cars zooming past us, and then the air ambulance arrived, people started stopping, the ambulances came, they shut the motorway, you know, it was a major incident.
Fewer than 1 in 10 people survive going into cardiac arrest, making Suzanne's case nothing short of a miracle.
And although it's been a horrible few months for Paul and Suzanne, they're looking ahead and thinking about how they can raise awareness for the importance of people knowing CPR.
It's given us a bit of a journey that we need to go on now. We want to try and educate people. We've spoke about it. Suzanne doesn't really know exactly what happened at all, but Annabelle, my daughter, who's with me, you know, when I've looked at all these bad, poor statistics, we would just love to try and just make people think and perhaps have a look at a video online. Yeah. Perhaps if you work, say, can I go on a course? And just put a bit of focus on it.
I think that's probably why they lose so many people, because around you,
they dither.
You just don't know what to do, or you pause for a minute, but that minute is so important of your 5 minutes.
With big hopes for campaigns in the future, Paul and Suzanne will just have to keep beating on. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Dartford.
Great story from Megan Shaw there. Now, nearly half of UK adults, that's more than 23 million, are yet to learn the life-saving skill of CPR. And that's despite the fact that around 80% of out-of-hospital cardiac arrests actually happen in the home. Now, this means that learning CPR could potentially help you save the life of a loved one, just as Paul did for his wife. It was a great story and great to hear from both of them about that. But how can we be better prepared? How can we make sure that we know exactly what to do in that situation? As they mentioned, those few moments, the minutes between when the attack actually occurs and from when the paramedics or the emergency services will arrive, are extremely crucial. So, in order to find out more about what we can do and how best we can learn, we spoke to Sam Kennard. He works for the British Heart Foundation, and we spoke a little bit about why learning the vital skill is so important, how to carry out resuscitation, and what other ways we can learn. Hi Sam, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, tell us a bit about how important it is for early intervention when it comes to CPR.
When someone has an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, every minute matters. It's so critical that that person receives help as fast as possible. It's those first few minutes that will really dictate someone's chances of survival. And that's why it's really key that when someone stops breathing and are unresponsive, that you call 999 straight away and start CPR, because it's early CPR that will give someone the very best chance of survival. There are 40,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests every single year in the UK. Currently, less than 1 in 10 survive, but we know that early CPR and defibrillation could more than double those chances of survival. So when someone has a cardiac arrest, phone 999 and start CPR to give that person the very best chance.
I see. And when I've discussed CPR with people before, it's always people often advise to use a song. So, for instance, I think it was Staying Alive and Baby Shark. Briefly, for our audience at home who might not know exactly how to perform CPR, could you give us a quick rundown?
Yes, of course. So the songs that you mentioned, the reason that we suggest practicing to Staying Alive, for example, is that when you give CPR, you're compressing hard and fast in the center of the chest, 100 to 120 times per minute. So songs that are 100 to 120 beats per minute are great to practice along to. But to learn CPR, it couldn't be more straightforward or easy to get those skills. And the British Heart Foundation have our free accessible Reviver tool. All you need to do is search BHF Reviver, and using a smartphone and a cushion, it will run through all of those steps from calling 999 to commencing CPR, starting those chest compressions, hard and fast in the center of the patient's chest, 100 to 120 beats per minute, as fast as deep as you can, and continuing until help arrives.
And specifically with the ex-mayor of Dartford and his wife, he was actually driving when he turned over and noticed that she looked, in his words, lifeless. When someone is driving or in a situation where it's not ideal, what are the safe practices they can do in terms of pulling off to the side of the road and things like that?
Of course, and the key thing with any kind of response is make sure it's safe to respond as and when you do. So pulling to a safe place and coming out of the vehicle if it's safe to do so. But calling 999 is really critical and giving them the best location that you can based on landmarks around you or addresses, junctions of the motorway, things like that. They will be able to identify where the call is coming from and with those clues be able to send help. But stay safe, be conscious of traffic, things like that around you, and only proceed if it's safe to do so. But the 999 call handler will talk you through all of that, and that will be really specific to the situation that you're in.
I see. And lastly from me, I'm just curious, what other resources can people access on the British Heart Foundation website, and what other campaigns are currently ongoing to get more people aware and educated?
We're constantly encouraging all members of the public, all people to learn CPR and be as confident as they can. Everything that you need is on the British Heart Foundation website. We've also currently got our defibrillator funding program that is live, so right through to the end of February this year.
Now it's time for our final break, but don't go anywhere as we still have 100 years of television to look back on. That's all in celebration of the 100th anniversary since John Logie Baird changed the world through the invention of the very first television in 1926. Well, we'll see you right back here after a few minutes with all that and more. See you soon.
Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, first of all, don't forget, as always, you can keep up to date with all our latest headlines by going over to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll be able to find all our stories, including this one, a rare outing from Kent. Megan Shaw went down to London's Toy Fair, where some of the county's best businesses were showing off their toy products. It's a very fun piece, and I think everyone in the newsroom was extremely jealous that Meg Baggsy this one first. Well, let's have a look at what was definitely a very fun package to film.
Christmas might have come and gone, but toy manufacturers across the country are already counting down the days until wish lists are made. London's Toy Fair is the biggest one across the UK, and although it draws huge global retailers such as Playmobil and Ravensburger, Kent's businesses can also be found in the toy box.
Yes, we are born in the US, but all of our team are based in Tunbridge in Kent, so we offer all remote control cars, all the way from really small little cars, so 1/64th size, all the way up to 1/5. For us, for the UK, I think we are quite a small brand at this stage. It means a huge amount to have a space at such a large event.
We make small strategy board games, and they are travel-based, so this is why we've got the train theme, that you can sort of take them anywhere you like. And they're user-friendly, so they're easy to learn for people all ages, whether it's your children or your grandparent. We're based in Sittingbourne in Kent, and you can find our games at Dice and Destiny in Canterbury.
Now, the big question is, which toy will be on every child's wish list for 2026? Will it be something like this bike here, quite modern? Apologies for your wait there. Or maybe something a little bit more old school. Is that cash or card for you today?
I think everyone always thinks about how technology is changing children's lives, but as you've said, when you walk around Toy Fair, you see lots of traditional play patterns, so play sets like imaginative toys, kind of wacky, silly, gross toys. And last year, that part of the industry did really well. So, you know, tech toys only make up a really small % of the market. And actually, what we love doing is what children have loved to do for generations. We like playing with games, we like role-playing.
And for Folkestone-based Big Jig Toys, making sure their products are unplugged is all part of the fun.
There are no screens here. Throughout our whole range of 4,000 products, there are only 3 products that have got a battery, and there is nothing that has got a screen. Big Jigs focuses on pure play, absolute immersion by a child into a wooden product within the Big Jigs brand, and none of that involves screen time.
And while children might start to worry about being naughty or nice, toy manufacturers continue to push for playtime over device. Megan Shaw for KMTV in London.
Now it's time to take a look at the weather. A chilly start tonight, temperatures staying around 6 and 7 degrees across the board. Light showers in the south and the west. Into the morning, a yellow weather warning for heavy rain will be in place across the county. Temperatures expected to remain much the same, highs of 7. By the afternoon, skies staying largely cloudy. Temperatures rising to around 9 degrees in areas like Canterbury and Margate, highs of 10. Here is your outlook. Some brighter spells breaking through the cloud on Wednesday, highs of 9 degrees. Temperatures dropping slightly on Thursday, reaching highs of 8, with the rain returning on Friday. Temperatures remaining largely unchanged. Now, today marks the 100th anniversary since John Logie Baird changed the world through the invention of the very first television. That was back on the 26th of January 1926. The Scottish inventor lived in Hastings, and it's taught that that was where he showcased the working television. Over in Folkestone, though, the History Society has a treasure trove of documents and records showcasing the actual timeline, which places him in the town sometime in 1923. Baird rented a room at 10 West Terrace, Folkestone, but when this became cluttered with electrical equipment, he was advised to move his work to an electrical radio shop. Now, I'm delighted to say we're joined by Ben Barton, a filmmaker who is working on a documentary all about the invention of the TV in Folkestone. So thank you so much for joining us, Ben. So what role did Folkestone play in John Logie Baird's invention of television?
So, the date that we're all talking about today is the day that John Logie Baird actually showed the public TV. He showed the world he had this amazing invention. But I was asked to write an article about quirky stories about Folkestone, and I remembered this anecdote about John Logie Baird living in the town. And so I just started to look into it. And yeah, the official timeline is that he was born in Scotland. He had bad health, so he moved down south, for health reasons. And the traditional story is that's always been Hastings, but we do have evidence to say that perhaps it was Folkestone. So that's what I'm looking into.
I see. Very interesting that you've unearthed that. And obviously, TV has gone from it's become a big part of everyone's lives. Tell me a bit about that journey of when you were making the documentary. When you mentioned there that you started out by writing the article, what was the moment that you thought, hang on, there's more to this?
So what it is, there was a note on the Historical Society that Baird had lived in Folkestone, but there's this plaque, there's this plaque that kind of marked the, the location. And when I went looking for it in what is now Fosbury Studio, it just wasn't there. Together with the owner, Dan Fosbury, he had just taken off some cladding off the walls, and we discovered this plaque. So then we were able to find news articles about it and to place John Logie Baird in Folkestone in, around this time, very early 1920s, when he was literally trying to send something from one corner of the room to the other.
I see, and we can see a picture of yourself with a TV there. Can you tell us a bit about, for anyone who doesn't know too much about the story of John Logie Baird?
Yeah, sure. So in the early 1920s, radio had already been a strong part of people's lives for many years by that time. It was called the wireless. So there are inventors all around the world who were trying to do this seeing by wireless. If we can send sound, why can't we send pictures? So it was a bit of a race going on in the early 1920s. And John Logie Baird is the guy who got there first, basically. He showed the first working TV system. However, his one used mechanical discs that would spin, to scan and then show the picture. That's not really the system that we ended up using. We ended up using a tube system. However, John Logie Baird was the first person to show it in public, and that's what he did 100 years ago today, and possibly began in a basement in Folkestone.
I see. And tell us a bit about the documentary. What can people expect? How much do you cover of John Logie Baird's life?
So obviously this started as an article. A documentary gives you much more room to kind of, more space to show some of the ideas. So for the documentary, I've gone to the Hastings Museum, interviewed the curator. We've looked at some of the original working models of John Logie Baird's early TV. It was called the televisor back then. So the documentary is going to cover that. I've also found a very old archive clip of John Logie Baird's widow in Folkestone unveiling the plaque. So yeah, it's all going to come together, and it's going to be released later this year.
I see, and we can see some images on the screen now of these early tests, and I'm curious what you make of this idea. So 100 years ago, 1926, the television comes out, and for the next 100 years, it is probably the most watched medium, the most dominant medium. But in recent times, I feel that there's almost a slight shift away, and that in lots of young people, what can be done on a television can also be replicated on a phone. You've got Netflix on your phone, YouTube, all the streaming services. Do you think in 100 years, people will be talking about the very first smartphone in the same way?
Oh, I think maybe we will, but technology is just moving so fast at the moment, isn't it? But, you say about smartphones, even we've all got a screen in our pocket now. I'm talking to you on a screen now. I think we can very much say that all comes back to John Logie Baird and his original invention. And in another 100 years, who knows? Who knows what we'll be talking to each other on?
Absolutely. And tell me a little bit more about your documentary. How and when can we watch it?
So it's so strange. I kind of didn't realise. I woke up this morning to all my friends telling me, John Logie Beds all over the TV. I probably should have got it out a bit sooner, shouldn't I? But I'm taking my time with this project. I'm working with a cameraman called Alexander Saxby, and we're hoping to get it out in the next couple of months.
I see.
Watch this space.
Yeah. Well, people will definitely be looking out for it. And I'm also curious a little bit about how it feels, because I'm aware you operate a lot in Folkestone. You're a co-director of the Folkestone Film Festival. Is that right? Tell me,
yeah, that's right.
What does it kind of mean to you personally to almost be carrying the torch from where TV really had this zenith and this start to where it is now, and you're still contributing in that same area? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means a lot. I'm really passionate about Folkestone and all the creative stuff we have going on here. You know, I love Folkestone. I'm from the Romney Marsh, not far away. So yeah, it's just an amazing story to bring into the spotlight, you know. And Hastings is traditionally known as the town where TV was kind of, you know, that's where John Logie Baird is associated with. And I do have some friends from Hastings, and I go there a lot. So I do worry I might have to watch myself a bit if I'm trying to take the crown a bit. But I think it's really about